Good morning, everybody. How's the microphone? Yep, looks like everybody front and the back can hear us. Hello, my name is Peter Berger. I'm the Director of Business Development and Partnership for Woven Planet, and we are here to talk about autonomous vehicle technology and airdrops, revolutionizing the middle mile and the last mile. So, I am joined by a number of different wonderful guests today. But before that, I just wanted to sort of read a little introduction. So the middle mile is the unsung hero of logistics. Moving goods, medicine, food from warehouses to fulfillment centers is doing it well is the difference between next day and next week. So the amazing technologies and interesting companies we have up here are going to be a wonderful next 30 minutes to share your time with. So let's see how these slides work, folks. So I would like to introduce Valkyrie. Let's just go this way and you guys can introduce yourselves instead of just me reading that off. So would you like to start?
Sure. My name's Jeff Graves. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships with Valkyrie. We have IP and an early stage startup in the middle and last mile and last inch of the last mile in the supply chain. We're a drone and payload agnostic, and fundamentally we turn a drone delivery solution into a teleport. We make drones, a drone delivery station that makes drones safe, secure, hands-free, complete chain of custody all from end to end, and means that nobody actually needs to touch or get close to a drone.
Excellent. Now we move on to people that throw things out of airplanes. Joel.
Great introduction. Hey, I'm Joel Eiffel, founding CEO of Dash Systems. As he said, we do exactly that. We commercialize precision airdrops. So what you're seeing here, kind of world's first for the audience, is essentially an airdrop in process. This is a off-the-shelf 208 launching cargo to about a helipad size space on the ground below. Again, a little bit different, a lot of fun. Great to be here.
So, and now, Peter with Airflow.
Hi everyone, my name is Peter Kalagianis. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Airflow. And we're developing a new type of aircraft that not only it's an electric aircraft that it can not only allow folks to replace their existing fleets of regional carriers, but also the technology gives us new capabilities to take off and land on extremely short runways, which means we can now fly directly from warehouse to warehouse, bypassing the traditional airport infrastructure.
And last but certainly not least, Daniel with Udelv.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Laury. I'm the CEO of Udelv. Udelv is a pioneer in autonomous delivery. We did the world's first autonomous delivery from a grocery store in San Mateo, California, to a couple of customers back to a grocery store in 2018 with our first generation vehicle. And this year at CES, we unveiled our third generation vehicle, which is transformative of the automotive industry and the logistics industry. Automotive because it's the world's first vehicle that can go at highway speed, that will have no cabin, no seats, no seat belts, no airbags, no pedals, no steering wheel. And the logistics industry is because we created a unique and patented cargo container that has adaptive shelving and sliding doors in order to be able to do up to 80 stops per run and carry 2,000 pounds of cargo.
Great, thank you. And interesting. Okay, so hi, my name is, again, Peter Berger, the Director of Business Development and Partnership for Woven Planet. Woven Planet is the mobility company that was created by Toyota to be able to provide data and services, enablement technologies for everything from automobiles, smart cities, and including air taxis. I'm incredibly excited to talk about this, and we're gonna jump right into it, and I'm gonna pick Joel. Joel, how would you describe the middle mile? Like, what do you think about that? How do you position yourself?
Yeah, great question. Can I answer in the negative? The first mile is on the pickup side, last mile, the delivery side. There's about that 80% chunk in the middle, which is getting things from market to market. So kind of how we look at it is those market to market deliveries. How do you move goods from location A to location B to then enact the rest of the supply chain?
Spectacular. So Peter, do you have any follow-on to that? I mean, do you think of it differently, or do you totally agree?
Actually, very similarly. So I think last mile is so easy to define, right? It's the truck that shows up and someone gets out and drops off your good, or there's no one on the truck. But the reality is, the real meat of the process happens in everything else that gets your package onto that vehicle for that last mile delivery. For us, it's the last, we call it the 50 to 200 miles that gets you to that last mile point.
So, Jeff.
I'd say that, if you start, the first mile is from the factory to the warehouse, from the warehouse to the distribution point where you have more than one customer is for me the middle mile, which is good for us because like our the product line includes a drone delivery station that's got up to 6 customers can be treated all at once, and then the last mile is straight to the house or to the person. And that's also where we're looking to operate.
Very nice. Daniel?
We see it slightly differently than last and middle mile. We're seeing this as a multi-stop delivery versus a point-to-point delivery. Multi-stop delivery can be both last and middle mile. The challenge in automating a multi-stop delivery is when the recipient needs to take their goods and not somebody else's, or need to find their good amongst 100 other packages. So the challenge of automating a multi-stop delivery is that you need to have compartments, and you need to have an intelligent system for those compartments to be communicating with the merchant on the loading side, or the DC on the loading side, and the recipient on the unloading side.
So staying with you, Daniel. How do you really see technology playing a fundamental role in changing middle to last mile? Like, how does your technology do that?
Me?
Yep. You.
I think that the challenge of automating the multi-stop delivery is to create a system that is a combination of hardware and software that allows the merchant or the person at the warehouse to be able to load a container in a way that the recipient is going to be able to find their goods without taking somebody else's. Or in the case of a distribution center to multi-stores, that the people at the stores will take their goods and not take somebody else's. The interesting story about Udelv is that our first generation vehicle was a system of fixed lockers on wheels, like imagine Amazon lockers, and we realized that it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is because the lockers are either too big or too small for what you carry. They're too big. When they're too big, you carry air, which is not very energy efficient. And when they're too small, you can't carry the goods. So we created a unique and patented system that has adaptive shelvings, where you can add or remove shelves depending on the dimensions of the goods that you carry. If you're going to be carrying small pills for Walgreens, you add more shelves, and now you can do 80 stops per run. If you're going to carry a muffler for an auto parts distributor, which is 93 inches long, you remove the shelves, and now you can carry that. And then you have to combine this with software on the cloud in order for the recipient to be able to open their compartment and not someone else's.
Very interesting. So, Peter, completely switching gears to electric aviation, how does technology change the middle mile for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with all due respect to Udelv, traditionally, when things need to move quickly, the only way to do it is to go by air. So, I think we will all agree on that. And what's changed today is electric propulsion. It now allows us to do things that we just couldn't do before. So it allows us to move goods much more efficiently, much more quickly. And with those new capabilities that we have, flying directly from a warehouse, for example, 50 miles outside of a major metropolitan area, to a delivery center, we can bring that speed to the middle mile where it just didn't exist before. Where we have same-day and next-day deliveries that are now possible in areas that just couldn't be done in the traditional ways.
So Joel's company is close to my heart because when I'm in the States, I live in a very remote area. So I'd love to hear sort of technologically, like, where do you really fill in the middle and last mile?
Yeah, and I always like to say too, technology should be an enabler to your product, not the product yourself. So really, for us, our vision is one-day delivery anywhere in the world, starting with the hard places. You know, this is the tip of Alaska in the wintertime. You know, the day after a humanitarian disaster, a hurricane, places that traditionally say, yeah, we can't really reach Montana in the wintertime. Those are our markets, and again, the way we do that is by commercializing airdrops, and kind of the whole reason you do this, it essentially allows for aircraft, this fastest asset in cargo, to address more locations. If you can drop someplace that's not an airport, all of a sudden you can decouple air cargo from slower means like ground transportation or the need for ground networks at all. So really when we kind of put together what we're saying is, hey, we're building a 1 and 2 day network, overlaid it over the existing air cargo network, and also knocking out a lot of middle miles, ground miles, et cetera. So
Jeff, how does your drone technology really fit into a really solid niche? I actually am looking forward to this explanation.
Well, I hope I do it justice. I'm completely on board with the primacy of aviation as to sort of be able to go from A to Z, A to Z, sorry, with sort of very immediately. I think where we see technology fitting into this is that it automates the whole process. It should be a click and collect, and however it arrives, from the warehouse all the way through to the last mile, it should be automated. And that's where we see ourselves taking the human away from having to get close to a drone, and drones being the fastest way of getting from to the doorstep or to the residential area. The automation is key, and that's where it takes out the error. You have chain of custody throughout. You're able to take drugs and pharmaceuticals, medical samples, and you know exactly where they are at the whole time.
It's like a secure conveyor belt in the sky.
I'm going to use that line.
You totally used that line before in our prep. So that's definitely your line. I'm just riffing off of it.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get into the fun stuff. Now we know who you all are. The question and the hard question is, what has to be true for your company to be successful? And I'm going to throw this over to Joel.
Well, the first one, big one for us, gravity has to work, just so things don't get stuck in the sky. But assuming gravity works, I'd say the root one is, do people need things fast? I think that answer is yes. Is air cargo still going to be around decades from now? Yes. I don't think there's a viable technology that really offsets air cargo. I think there's amazing innovations like electric aviation changes the efficiency, but it's going to be here. If these two things are true, there's going to be a need for what we're doing, again, just to get to these markets that are essentially unreachable cost effectively.
So bumping over to Daniel. So for you, it seems there's a couple things that have to be true, and I'm really curious about how you sort of see the automation and the pickup and drop-offs that your company's doing with the individual sections.
Yeah, that's a great question. We in the B2B space, we think that the adoption is going to be very fast because you've got professionals on both sides. But in the B2C space, probably delivery habits will change because we now can be delivering things in a more precise way from a delivery window perspective within a 15-minute increment, for instance. Whereas, if you order your groceries at home, they'll tell you that it's a 3-hour window. And so with that, and the other change is that people obviously will have to go to the truck to pick their stuff. And so I think that that the consumers will now order their deliveries and have them delivered at the office as well as home, perhaps at Starbucks if they're meeting with a friend at 6:30, and you can have your Amazon or Walmart deliveries be done there. And this is going to be something that people will get very, very comfortable with. The cost of delivery is going to be dropping sharply because today the average cost of the driver represents about 65% on average of the cost of last and middle mile delivery. So if you remove the driver, you can expect to have a TCO, a total cost of ownership for delivery that is going to drop up to 50% probably. So I think that it's going to be more convenient for users and way cheaper.
So pumping it over to Peter, what do you think has to be true to make sort of middle mile electric aviation work?
Absolutely. So the first one is the easy one. We all have to want our deliveries faster and faster, and I think we can see that. We're all looking for that the next day or same day product. The other thing is we have to realize that trucks are as fast as they're going to go. They're not going to get any faster. So if we need to move goods, into these urban areas, these large cities that keep growing, we need to find an alternative solution. And really, that one's pretty obvious too. We've all been stuck in traffic. We all understand how much congestion there is out there, and it's only getting worse. So for us, it's very clear that the right way to do this, to move things quickly, is to go by air.
So for you, Jeff, what has to be true about the secure conveyor belt in the sky? Like, what things have to be true?
Well, building off the Peter's, the first thing is the economics. It has to make sense sort of economically, and that's, we all know that people want things sooner and sooner. We were happy with 2-day delivery, then 1-day delivery, and now we have partners who are looking at 3-minute delivery. So it just gets shorter and shorter, and so the economics needs to sustain the whole environment. The second thing is, and we're all suffering under both gravity and the regulation. The regulatory relief. Drones, it's no longer a technical issue. It's, we've had our patent portfolio for 7 years now, waiting for drones to become technically capable. They're now there, and so the technical issue is solved, and we're all held back by the FAA, the CAA, CASA, depending on which country you're in, and. So finally, I think for what needs to be true, as an organization, we need to be finding more and the verticals and the use cases where healthcare is obvious, food and pharmacy, and then fun, basically.
Food, pharmacy, fun. Interesting. I like that. So I think that one of the big challenges that non-logistics organizations, when they come to something like this on a sort of a fundamental level, they're asking themselves, how do we become an Amazon? Like, how do we become efficient? How do we really tie the entire chain together? How can people leverage all these technologies? I think for you guys, it's even more prescient because you can sort of restructure and revolutionize it. And so I'm going to throw this as an open question. How can your technology make another organization the next Amazon?
So I think that the wrong answer is do exactly what Amazon is doing, right? Because they're probably doing that better than you can. Really, what organizations have to do is plan for the future and execute on that plan. I think logistics it's a very long timeline. It's hardware, it's infrastructure, it's very big things. So what we need to do now is start thinking about where do we need to be in 5-10 years, and start making the investments, the commitments that will allow that to happen. And I think certainly folks in this room kind of get that, but I think it's something that's dawning on the industry as a whole, that we can't just do things the way we've always done them.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here. I think there's two things. This whole conference, you see data insight and efficiency improvements is kind of a common theme here. This morning UPS was mentioning that essentially air cargo today is at capacity. Freightering has been bought out for the next 2 or 3 years here, freightering, turning aircraft into freighter craft. I agree with Peter. It's not doing what Amazon's doing, it's improving on the state of the art. And for us, that's really just starting with this baseline that, the Amazon effect is more than real. We all want things, 2 days or faster. There's large swaths of the market, both US and abroad, that don't have that level of service today. So really what we're focusing on is being Amazon for everyone else. I'll give a quick example. In Alaska right now, the precedence is 7 to 8 day delivery. If you take it to 3 to 4 day delivery, it bears out about 125% improvement on demand for that shipping lane. Currently, they're suffering a 3 to 4 week delay of all shipping methods in Western Alaska. This is not just a hypothetical, this is real for them. They need everything they don't have a good solution today.
I'll add to that. If Amazon has sort of got two parts to it, the way I see it, and the first part is that it's got a huge data processing element, and I've heard it said, data is the new gold, and drones are the new mine. So we're happily seeing that part of it. And as Valkyrie, I mean, the other thing that I see Amazon is doing is they sell everything. And we carry everything, and we don't care how it's carried. We're completely agnostic as the drone, the payload, and the customer. And sort of that's where we would see ourselves emulating and following that model, being connected to the IoT and also being connected to anybody who wants to use us.
Daniel?
Yeah, I think our mission is to improve people's lives, and this is a very important topic. I think we're at more than at capacity in terms of home deliveries, and it's going to get only worse. The cost is going to go up with manned services, so it's really augmenting delivery capacity at this point. It's not replacing; it's really augmenting it. And I think that autonomous delivery will help tremendously with that. It's going to make deliveries more convenient, safer, more secure. Nobody is going to steal your goods while they're on your front door, and more importantly, a lot cheaper than today.
So we touched on this briefly when Jeff was talking about regulation, but what is standing in the way of a lot of your solutions really becoming large-scale adopted?
Yeah, and I'll jump in here, and I think I have a departure from most of the other ones at the table. We don't have a regulatory hurdle. What we're doing is safe and legal today. We've done it. We've delivered airdrops in 7 states now. It's not geo-dependent. We've done it in downtown Baton Rouge. We've done it from the North Slope of Alaska to southern Florida and Puerto Rico. There was, I think a lot of people want to give us this. Oh, did I lose it? I think a lot of people want to give us the same connotation of drone delivery of, hey, there are a lot of regulatory hurdles there. We're operating under Part 135, Part 91 for those not in the FAA game. This is commercial air cargo, general aviation. There's already rule sets around doing airdrops or doing things similar. Easiest example is skydiving. If you can throw a person out of the airplane, you can throw a package out too.
I'll jump in, and that's right. You guys have a unique niche there in aerospace. For the rest of us, aerospace is hard. It's hardware. There are long timelines. There is a regulatory hurdle. We have to get this acceptance. So even Joel, you still have to get the local acceptance from the communities to do this, right? And that's certainly something we all are working towards and see that as a challenge. Everyone has to want this, but I think the biggest one certainly is what we're doing is hard, right? That's why we're doing it in a lot of cases. But that takes time and that takes patience and it takes commitment.
Yeah, for us, the regulatory challenge is slightly different. For you guys, you don't want your thing to drop on somebody's head. For us, it's not hitting something. So we do have 2 types of challenges as far as Udelv is concerned. The first one is the roadworthiness of the vehicle, because it's the first time in the history that there's going to be a vehicle that has no cabin. So it's got to pass the NHTSA DOT regulations, and in Europe the local regulations. But I think it's going to be a little easier than passenger cars, because today with the FMVSS standards, I think there's about 120 of them, of which 100 are about occupants of the vehicle. Because the vehicle has no occupant, it's going to be a lighter process, if you will, for roadworthiness. And then you have the challenge of the AV, autonomous vehicle system on the grounds. The legislation is evolving quite fast in a good way. Today in the United States, about 41 states out of 50 have enacted some sort of legislation regarding autonomous vehicles, and some of them are more liberal than others. It's often stated that Arizona, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, some of those states are more liberal in terms of autonomous vehicles, and you can today put a vehicle on the road in Arizona, for example, without a steering wheel and pedals, and it's legal as long as you have a license plate. In Europe, Germany is the first country that has, in the world, that has acted a nationwide L4, level 4 autonomy legislation that authorizes commercialization of autonomous vehicles. So, and the European Union is going to follow suit behind Germany. So I think that the legislation is evolving really fast and in a very good way.
Great, thank you. Jeff?
We're not really affected about the legislation so much, though we do get into the planning part. The regulation, I think, has been well addressed on the panel. I think the core for us is economics. It has to pay for itself, and that involves looking for use cases, making sure that we've ring-fenced our USP, and taking it from there, finding good partners, finding good customers.
Economic practicality, you can't downplay that. So to close out in the last few minutes, why go through all this trouble? Why don't just do the things the same old way? Why is the juice worth the squeeze here? I'll start off with Jeff.
Because it's fun.
Oh, there we go.
It's awesome. I mean, it's like a really exciting time. I think this next year, like in the various countries, we're going to be able to do more. The drone technology, the economies of scale are going to make it all possible. We're finding good links with with partners and potentials from golf courses to healthcare verticals. Where I mean, I'm come from a more humanitarian background where the healthcare vertical matters more to me, but being able to deliver things more efficiently, more effectively, it's awesome. It's really fun.
Nice, Joel.
I'll tell a really short story here. Back in 2017, in Puerto Rico, the largest hurricane in 100 years hit. We showed up a few days later. It was complete chaos. Anything outside of San Juan was unaddressable. Two small communities, Las Marias, Utuado. By the time we got there, it had been 14 days without any contact with the outside world. We took a FedEx feeder aircraft that was sitting idle. Of course, they couldn't do everything. All the road networks are down. We loaded up with some airdrop systems. We went out and delivered in 20 minutes. We took it from 14 days to 20 minutes. This is, I think, to me, almost a moral imperative. There's so many places just like that either from disaster or just routine by being remote can't get rapid deliveries. That's what really energizes me and gets me going.
Peter?
So I think the common theme here is that we can't keep doing things the way we've been doing them in the past. So it is time to decarbonize aviation. This is the right spot to do it. We can replace the existing fleets out there with aircraft that are better for the environment and better for the customers. And we need to move things faster, and we need to not just do it by building more warehouses and storing more goods. We need to think differently, and this is a great way to do it.
I think it's a case of the technology being able to provide something that's going to be a world-changing, is going to have a world-changing impact. I think that delivery is going to be the first large-scale application of autonomous vehicles because it's easier and it's safer to carry cargo than it is to carry humans. And so it'll take maybe a few years for people to really see that autonomous vehicles are safer than human driving, to then trust their life into a computer-driven vehicle. So I think it's a world-changing impact. Plus, the other thing is that transportation is responsible for an enormous number of fatalities around the world. I think 1.3 million a year. So if we can make our roads much safer, it's going to improve everybody's lives. And finally, as was mentioned before, transportation is one of the largest emitters of carbon emissions. So if we can make or assist in the transition towards electrification of fleets, I think this is going to help the world become more sustainable.
Great. And thank you so much for our speaking panelists. I can clearly show that the middle mile and last mile are being reinvented by the people here on this stage. I'm going to steal Jeff's line that they're basically bringing much needed access to productive, quick delivery of food, pharma, and fun. So please give everyone a round of applause and thank you for your time.